Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission, as always, is to take complex, critical source material and, well, really pull out the insights you can actually use without all the fluff. Today, we are diving deep into something pretty crucial, Canadian housing stability. We're focusing on a recent report where, honestly, the language the National Housing Agency used maybe raises more eyebrows than the actual numbers. We're looking at excerpts derived from a Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation report, that's the CMHC, published October 7, 2025. Our goal is really to get past the headlines and figure out why this specific agency is, sounding a kind of national alarm about mortgage stability. When the agency watching the whole housing system speaks up like this, we really need to understand what they're trying to tell us.
Absolutely. And that's really where the value is for you, the listener. Because in finance, in real estate, risk is often communicated subtly through nuance. You can have a small number, but if it comes from the right place at the right time, it can signal a huge shift coming down the line. The CMHC, they're kind of like the system stress tester. So when they voice concern, it almost always points to some underlying vulnerability that frankly needs attention. Now,
Okay, let's unpack this then. Let's start with a core piece of data, the number itself. What was the exact statistic that sort of jumped off the page and made the CMHC issue this warning?
okay, the specific stat, and this is directly from the CMHC, reflecting Q2 2025, Canada's overall mortgage delinquency rate rose to 0.22%.
Yeah.
0.22%, that's the raw number. Pretty straightforward.
Right, 0.22%. Now, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second because my first thought, and I bet a lot of listeners are thinking this too, is like, well, 0.22%, that still sounds incredibly low. I mean, it's less than a quarter of 1%. Is the CMHC maybe crying wolf a bit here? Why should we really care about that number on its own?
That's the perfect question. And it's what separates, a really sophisticated analysis from just glancing at the headline. Look, if 0.22% was, say, the historical average, or if the increase was super slow, it wouldn't even be a story. It'd be noise. But context changes everything. The CMHC, in their commentary around this number, explicitly warns Canada faces a wave of mortgage delinquencies and arrears. They don't just toss around words like wave casually. That's strong language for an agency like this.
Okay, a wave. That definitely sounds more serious than 0.22%.
Exactly. Think of it like this. 0.22% isn't the disaster itself, it's the change. It's the acceleration that's setting off alarm bells. It's like the moment the slope of a curve suddenly gets steeper. When the National Housing Agency uses language like wave, they're telling us the system is seeing rapidly building financial stress, even if the total number of people affected is still relatively small for now. For the CMHC, this is a leading indicator, like a tiny tremor that tells you the bigger plates are definitely shifting.
I like that analogy. It shifts the focus, doesn't it? From just how big the problem is right now to how fast it seems to be growing. So let's make sure we're crystal clear on the terms they used. The source material mentions both delinquency and arrears. What's the actual difference? And why is the CMHC warning about arrears becoming a wave?
Good point. So delinquency is basically the status, the 0.22%. That refers to the percentage of mortgages that are behind on payments. Typically, that means 90 days or more past due. It's just counting the accounts that are late. Arrears, though, that focuses on the debt, the actual money. Arrears represent the pileup, the accumulated amount of missed principal and interest payments connected to those delinquent mortgages.
Ah, okay. So delinquency is the count of late mortgages. Arrears is the amount owed on them.
Precisely. And the CMHC emphasizing arrears becoming a wave is really critical. It suggests two things might be happening. Either one, more people are falling behind, that's the delinquency rate rising, or two, and this is crucial, the size of the average missed payment, or maybe the total debt load piling up from these missed payments, is growing really fast, disproportionately. It hints that households falling behind are finding it harder and harder to catch up, which leads to this ballooning debt pile, much harder to fix without serious help.
That distinction, the growing burden of arrears, that really paints a different picture. That makes the word wave feel much more justified. It implies this mounting, maybe unresolved debt. And this data snapshot is specifically from Q2 2025, right? So it reflects a very recent moment.
That's right. Very current. Which is why we need to connect the dots. What's the CMHC likely seeing or anticipating that makes them release this now? If we connect this to the bigger picture, the CMHC is essentially showing us the visible tip of the iceberg, the result of maybe unseen economic pressures building up. A spike in delinquencies, specifically in Q2 2025, points pretty directly towards household budgets finally running out of steam, exhausting their reserves. We could be looking at the delayed impact, the fallout from this period of sustained high interest rates we've been in.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not just counting defaults in isolation. They're likely recognizing that many homeowners, maybe those who got mortgages when rates were rock bottom,
Yeah.
they've recently hit or they're about to hit some pretty major renewal deadlines. And the payment shock, the jump in their monthly payments, could be turning what was manageable into something, well, impossible, pushing them into that delinquency category.
That is exactly the vulnerability they're flagging. Historically, Canadian mortgage holders, remarkably resilient. They find ways to pay. But that resilience is really being tested now by how fast debt servicing costs have shot up. So what this 0.22% really tells the CMHC is that the stress from those renewals, or just the higher rates generally, isn't theoretical anymore. It's showing up as actual missed payments in household accounts. It's not just a blip. It feels like the start of systemic risk actually materializing.
So the CMHC deciding to publicize this and using such strong language, it feels less like just routine reporting and more like a deliberate signal, like an alert to stakeholders, lenders, maybe policymakers, saying, hey, get ready, things might get rougher in Q3 and Q4.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely a call to action, or at least a call to prepare. When the National Housing Agency uses terms like waive, they're essentially telling lenders you might need to review your loss provisions. And telling policymakers, perhaps, those safety nets for vulnerable homeowners, they might need strengthening. They're trying to get ahead of it, mitigate the damage by making sure everyone understands the gravity implied by how fast these arrears seem to be piling up.
It's really quite fascinating how much punch a single phrase, that warning about a waive, can have when it's tied to a specific, even if small, number. So for you listening, the key insight here isn't just the 0.22%. It's who is saying it, the CMHC, and the context they're giving it, the waive warning. That makes this 0.22% feel like a really credible early warning signal, a sign that financial difficulties are accelerating, especially for those facing that payment shock.
And we also have to remember, national stats like this, they often smooth over big regional differences. While the CMHC report might only give us the single 0.22% figure for the whole country, you can bet their internal analysis is looking at specific regions, or maybe certain types of borrowers that are seeing much higher delinquency rates. The national number is like the country's overall temperature, but that wave language. It suggests that in some places, that wave might already be hitting the shore pretty hard.
That brings up another point, the potential impact on housing supply, doesn't it? If you get a significant, faster than usual number of homeowners going from delinquency into actual default, well, that could start to affect the market, right? Maybe more distressed sales hitting the market.
Precisely. That creates a potential feedback loop, and that's exactly what the CMHC wants to prevent. Their whole mandate is stability. They're trying to head off a situation where a sudden jump in forced sales starts pushing down overall home values, which then destabilizes the financial sector. Nobody wants that. So this warning, it's also kind of a regulatory nudge. It's designed to inject some caution into the market. It encourages lenders, hopefully, to work proactively with that 0.22%, the ones who are struggling, maybe offer forbearance or restructuring, rather than just jumping straight to foreclosure processes.
Okay, so in essence, the CMHC is using this small number, 0.22%, to confirm that the high interest rate medicine, the tool used to slow the economy, it's now starting to bite and bite hard into the average homeowner's ability to keep up with payments. And the message is the national housing market needs to kind of brace itself for what the next round of data might show.
That sums it up perfectly. The VASCO 2% is concrete evidence that the macroeconomic policy is working, in a sense. But it comes with this painful side effect of rising household instability. And the CMHC's job is to flag that pain point before it potentially snowballs into a bigger financial mess. It means the vulnerability is real, and yeah, it seems to be accelerating.
Which brings us towards the end of this deep dive. We've really unpacked that core statistic, the B.2% mortgage delinquency rate back in Q2 2025. And maybe more importantly, the significance of the CMHC's strong warning about a wave of arrears, which confirms that mounting debt burden likely linked to recent economic pressures like interest rates.
Yeah, and it leaves us with a really important question for you to think about as you follow future economic news. See, this delinquency rate, it's what we call a lagging indicator. It tells you about pressure that already built up. So the CMHC, by issuing this warning now, must be anticipating certain things developing in Q3, Q4, maybe beyond. So the question is, what specific indicators should you watch? Things like, say, unemployment figures, or maybe signs of stubbornly high inflation continuing. What would need to happen with those broader economic trends to either make this wave get bigger and faster, or perhaps cause it to flatten out and recede? Think about it. If the job market starts to weaken significantly on top of high rates, that 0.22% could look very different very quickly. Keep an eye on those wider pressures to really grasp where this housing stress might be headed next.
Absolutely. Keep seeking out that knowledge. Keep connecting those dots. Thank you for joining us for the deep dive. We'll catch you next time.